Hello, bruvs. Frank Leslie's Christmas book, 1889 to 1890, is absolutely madness, but let's get back into it. I don't know where I'm even at. 20 page, 23 page. Colie's, where's that Colie? Colie's Macaw, 8 years old today, was Lance. But in spite of its being his birthday, and although he had had some beautiful presents, he had stolen away from everybody and was sitting on an empty hamper in the loft over the coach house, crying. The reason was this. It was Colie's birthday, too. For Colie and Lance were twins, and their grandfather had brought each one of them, as his custom was on that day every year, a handsome present. And Lance's trouble was that he wished that he had Colie's gift, and that Colie had his. Colie, my boy, the old gentleman had said, you don't care a bit for birds and animals, so I have brought you a pet which you must feed and take care of. And then perhaps you will get to love other dumb creatures for its sake. And Lance, my boy, you dislike reading, I know, so here are 3 volumes with plenty of pictures. They will teach you to care for books. That was about half an hour before. Lance had tried to conceal his feelings and looked pleased, but when he saw the beautiful red and yellow macaw with its parrot-like beak and long tail and knowing eye, and reflected that it was to belong to his brother, he had hard work to keep from going into a rage and throwing his books on the ground. Stupid old grandpa, he muttered, drumming his heels on the hamper and brushing 2 teardrops from the front of his jacket. I won't read his old books. Fancy giving that beautiful bird to Colie. Colie won't feed it or anything. The hamper, which was a very rickety kind of seat, gave way at this point, and he rolled over onto the floor. He did not get up, but lay there on his face, a sniff at intervals being the only thing to show that he was not asleep. A step outside, nimble feet climbing the ladder to the trapdoor, and Colie was at his brother's side. Oh, don't, Lance, he said imploringly. It's all right, you know. You shall feed him and play with him as much as you like, and I'll read your books, and we shan't ever think about who they belong to. As the days went on, the little boy became more and more envious of Colie's good fortune, for Colie spent most of his spare time in the attic and was always talking about Toby, as he called the bird, and his clever ways. Lance never went up to see it and tried to forget that there was such a creature in existence. Next month, Colie went up to stay with his grandfather for 3 days. You'll take care of Toby, won't you, Lance? He said, and Lance nodded. Colie had faith in his brother and went away quite at ease. Colie's sure to have fed it this morning, so it'll be all right till tomorrow, Lance said to himself. The next morning he was up early and out for a ramble before breakfast. Not far away there was a farmhouse where lived a boy whom Lance knew. This boy was leaning on the gate of the farmyard looking out into the road. I say, was his greeting, we've got the steam threshing machine coming today, and tomorrow to thresh out our big wheat stack. Come round as soon as you've had your breakfast and see the machine at work. Lance was delighted. He told his mother he was going and was back at the farm in a very short time. All that morning he was watching the big engine and looking in wonderment at the whirling wheels of the threshing machine, and the time passed very quickly. He stayed at the farm to dinner, after which he returned where the machine was at work. You must come again tomorrow, said his friend as they parted. There will be another day of it. Lance was only too pleased. On both evenings when he reached home, he was so tired that he could scarcely keep awake to eat his supper, and was glad enough to tumble into bed. The 3rd morning after Colie's departure, his father said to his mother as he rose from the breakfast table, I'm just going to drive down to the station to meet the boy. He was to come by the first train, you know. Anything you want done in the town? Lance, on hearing those words, turned quite white, for he suddenly remembered the macaw. He had never once been near it, and Colie was just coming back. With trembling hands, he put a little crumb of bread into a teacup and poured some milk upon it. With this in his hand, he stole up to the room. He had scarcely courage to enter. When he did, he shut the door again hastily and stood just inside, looking in a horrified way at poor Toby, who had fallen from his perch and was hanging by his chain, apparently dead. Lance recovered himself in a minute enough to go near and unfasten the chain and lay the poor creature on the floor. It gave a feeble flutter, half opened one eye, closed it again, and lay still. The little boy's tears dropped on the unfortunate macaw's feathers as he tried in vain to get it to swallow some of the bread and milk he had brought. It's dead, he groaned, for when he lifted up its head, it fell limply back to the floor. He was still sitting there by its side when a slight sound made him look up. There was Colie at the door, looking at him. Lance sprang to his feet. "Look at your bird," he said in a tragic voice. "I have starved him to death." He rushed past his brother, afraid of seeing his grief, down the stairs and out into the garden. In a quiet corner of the orchard he lay on his face and cried, as though his heart were broken. There were not tears of anger now, but of shame, repentance, and sorrow. Long after, it seemed, he felt Colie's arm thrown round him. "Never mind, Lance, Toby's coming round. Papa came and made him swallow a little water with a drop of spirit in it, and then we forced some bread and milk down his throat, and he'll soon be as right as a trivet." And the two brothers returned to the house, arm in arm. All right, I don't understand this book. They're just pointless stories, but that's Frank Leslie's Christmas book. All right, Brobs, goodbye.